Okay.
Hello. Today is a day, and we are here with Jonathan
Zender.
and this is the Doer and the Thinker podcast, and we are comfortable as fuck today.
Yeah. Lazy day today. How you been?
I got wrecked last night.
It's only been a week.
I got wrecked. If you can't tell, I got wrecked last night, and this is my new favorite sweater.
You look tie-tie. You look tie-tie. You sound tie-tie.
And I have candies.
Oh,
You want
jeez.
some?
Ooh, Skittles.
You want
His
some
favorite.
candies?
His favorite
candies
is
in
Skittles. Ugh, diet's been whacked too, but well, it's been a minute, only a week, but I wanted to talk about, I guess, family and friends, mostly family. I'm thinking. I just thought about, the past few days, weeks, whatever. I'm just looking back at how not how I was brought up, but my family circle. It's pretty big. I mean, just with any family, but mostly Asian families or Mexican family or whatever. It's always, I don't want to say universally big, but it tends to be, right. So for me, I have the patriarch and the matriarch is pretty huge. It goes down to like, I want to say 4 to 5 brothers and sisters, and then they have kids, and then their kids have kids, and whatever. So it was pretty big. And back then, when we had gatherings over, it's usually pretty much at my house. My grandparents weren't like the main, but my grandpa was like the second oldest. We just had a bigger place to hold like I don't want to say festivals, just gatherings. And
Like a family-owned place?
like a family, no, like like apartments. We live in apartments or whatever,
interesting.
but they're decently sized. They're not that small. And every year, my grandma's sisters, my grandpa's sisters, whatever, they would go in the kitchen. They would cook like this extravagant meals, with like those big ass pots, like almost like a witch cauldron or whatever. And they would cook all day, and then they have people come or whatever, and then just have food. And I'm just kind of thinking now and then, I was never really close to a lot of my family members, and we don't really talk about, like the real stuff. It was mostly like, how's school, or how's your mom doing?
Yeah.
They don't talk about real shit, and then just growing up now, just kind of thinking back, like I wished I had like that kind of closeness to my family, because you see certain families here, from my perspective, they have a closeness to them, like, oh, my cousin Bob or whatever, like we grew up together and we used to play, football, blah blah blah. And then this is our tradition, is every Sunday we watch football and whatever,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I thought it was cool. I don't wish it was more like, I'm just kind of looking back at my life, and it was never like that. But we did have those gatherings, but it was one of those where they don't talk about real stuff, and if they do, it's like gossip. It's like, type of talk. They don't really say upfront to other people or to each other. And, they have their cliques or whatever, and most families do. So I'm just thinking like, man, I was never really close to a lot of my family members, and it was just like, you don't say that you love each other until it's kind of either too late or when you're too old or whatever, you
Yeah.
tend to do that. So not my question, but I'm just kind of curious to how your family dynamic is. Are you guys more close to each other, or is it kind of like the same thing where it's like,
Well, let me ask you this question first, though. Like, when those times that you were talking about, were you a kid, or is that now?
no,
Or
I
like,
was a
or
kid. I was a
closer
kid.
to like adult.
Yeah, I was a kid. I
That's
was
tough,
I
'cause-
want to say fifth. I'm just kidding. Fifth grade.
So you were like 14 years
No,
old.
yeah. I was 26. No, I came here to the United States when I was about 14, 15 years old. So it was anything before, anything
Okay.
before like 14, 13 years old, it was
Well, I
very,
think like after you're a kid, it's a little different, but like as a kid, it's kind of hard to really appreciate things like that, you know? Like when I was a kid, my grandma on my dad's side, it would be like Sunday family dinner, you know? So she would make sauce, like Italian families, like they call it sauce, right? But it's like, she didn't always make it with spaghetti, which would be the pasta, but it would just be like a sauce with some kind of pasta.
mm,
So we would always go over there, and then she would sometimes like make like burgers and hot dogs, and it was just always a family dinner, you know. And everybody, it was weird because my dad's mom, they lived right next to each other,
mm,
so we would literally go to the backyard, like walk behind the house, and then go into their house, and we just like sit down and eat, you know. It was the best. But I just now I really yearn and I really would love to have stuff like that, you know. And in California, for a while, we would get into that, like where I would hold Sunday family dinners, you know. But it's just kind of hard because how can you really blame yourself for being that little and then not appreciating that kind of stuff, you know? And
yeah,
you don't really know. You can't really. I wish that I would have was in there with my grandma to learn how to cook and
right.
really appreciate that time more. But now it kind of sucks because I will admit I'm a really bad family member. Like I'm a horrible family member. And what I mean by that is that I don't, because I don't have that much family in general.
Yeah.
Like I do, but like close family. I don't really hold my family members as valuable as other people hold family members, or other people feel that you should hold a family member, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like there will be some people, like my aunt, for example. My aunt, she's always going to be my aunt. She's always going to be my family, right? When I was a kid, my parents would go on vacation or something like that, and they would trust me with being at home alone. She would always check up on me, you know, make sure, hey, do you have food? Do you have money do you need money for food or whatever, you know, are you okay? You getting back and forth to school okay? And all that stuff. So things like that, like obviously she will always be my aunt. But for other like other family members, I mean, I'm just a horrible family member because I hold value in relationships. I don't hold value in titles, you know? So you and I are closer than any of my cousins, you know.
Yeah.
You and I are closer than almost any other people in my family, you know.
Right.
Eddie, you met Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
Him and I are closer than any other person on this planet, and he's not my blood, you know.
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
consider him my blood. I consider him my family, but technically, he's not.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think it now you thinking back, or at least for me or whatever, it shouldn't matter, right? Like who you hold dear in your heart or whatever. But I do wish that I was definitely close to like my family, because growing up, and I don't envy that people that have that kind of relationship with their family, but it's cool to see when you see it in person where they're very close to their cousins, or they're very close to a brother and sister, or whatever, like, you know what I mean. And it's just they can't do anything without consulting each other and stuff, or like they're like yeah, or like every week or every other week, they have like a family thing, but it's loud, it's boisterous, it's like they get along with each other and they talk shit too, at the same
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see. But now, I think growing older, whatever, you just think about, we move, or we think that we move towards something, and we move towards a goal or whatever, and we tend to not slow down and really look at what we have and what really is a part of our lives. You just want to get there, and then once you get there, you want to go somewhere else. And I'm
Yeah.
just kind of thinking like slowing down is okay, and I'm just kind of thinking like looking back, or looking at what I want towards the future. It's different from what I was thinking before, and I'm just kind of not fearing, but more like I need to slow down a little bit more and just kind of enjoy little things here and there, and just wish that I took the time to build certain relationships that I could have built, and obviously you can now still,
Yeah.
but it's just thinking and thinking back, like, oh, that could have been a cool relationship, or like, or my cousin or my family member, I wished I was around there, and so they didn't go to the bad place or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. And you just kind of like, when you're sitting there, we've talked before, and we had that really good meditation talk, and I've been really sitting and just kind of like, any chance that I can get. And my mode of meditation is just sitting there and just really asking myself all those questions over and over again. And the questions could be anything. It could be like, oh, how do you feel right now? You're mad. Okay, why are you mad? What are you mad at? And
Right.
just keep going deeper and deeper. So I've been working on that. So I've just been thinking more about like just family and close relationships, and just like, what is the difference between, like the fulfillment and the joy, but also having goals too, so what is the balance of all that, with family and all that stuff.
Well, I
So
think it's like you have to work on it, right? It's like any other relationship. I think the problem sometimes is that people get so familiar that they don't work on relationships, and then you're no longer having interactions based on trying to have a meaningful relationship. You're having interactions based on the fact that you're just familiar,
right.
like with an uncle or whatever. You go to the party and he's saying, "Oh, hey, hi, love you." Like in my family, they'll say like, "Love you, mijo." It means like son. But that's it. Oh, how are you doing? How's work? What do you do now?
Yeah.
But that's about it. And it sucks because I definitely have a personal responsibility for that as well. I was a lot younger before, when I was a lot more like there with the family, but I definitely have personal responsibility for some of those relationships failing, right? Because I didn't put that effort in as well. But I think that's what the thing that kind of makes things hard about family versus friends. And I think that that's kind of why a lot of times you get closer to friends than your actual family, because, well, at least for people like me, it's because you, I put value in the interactions that I'm having with somebody, and how much my like love for a person grows based off of the quality time that we have together. The type of interactions we have. It doesn't have to be an interesting conversation. It doesn't have to be I don't know. It doesn't have to be like some kind of like special thing. It's just how do we invest time in each other, and how does that feel, And a lot of times I feel like, at least in my family, the trend is that you don't do those kind of things because you're just family. You're already assumed,
Right.
that
Expected
closeness.
to love each other, expected to be there for each other.
Right. But for me, I just can't do that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to say it's fake, because some people appreciate that stuff, and there is value there. But for me, I feel like it's fake. I feel like I would be myself would be being fake if I did that, because I don't know. I don't know. It's weird.
I think there's a maybe a level of responsibility, and also a level of like, I don't say not caring, but there is a level, like, the responsibility is that you're supposed to, love your family. You're supposed to be there for one another no matter what, and you're supposed to turn the blind eye if they get in trouble. You're supposed to help them. But
Right.
with friends, you have that freedom of just like, you can be yourself, and then if that person that you're trying to be friends with don't take you as you are, then it's okay, because then they can become an acquaintance, or they can be just another person,
Right. You
but
get
if
to choose how much you invest into that.
right,
Yeah.
so once you become yourself and you have that freedom where you can just talk shit, you can just be yourself, even if you don't have anything related to each other or similar to each other, but because you guys or just people in general respect another, you build that relationship. And then if there's nothing there, then there's nothing there. It wouldn't hurt you. But with family, there might not be a certain freedom there, because if you were to say something of color, if you say something like real, then either you're the bad guy or they're the bad guy. Then they have this thing that you're not able to not let go, but it's more like you have to work it out. But if they don't want to, you have to kind of like, okay, I
Get
know
over
that
it.
that person is like that. My cousin's like that, so I'm just gonna give that my cousin like 15% of me.
Right.
Like,
You know, something that you just said too, and then I didn't realize is that you said like with friends, there's like a certain level of respect, you know?
Yeah.
I don't, at least not in my family, that doesn't exist. You know, there that like baseline level of respect where, you know, you're going to kind of, I don't know. In my family, the dynamic is more like I'm gonna bust your balls, which is fine because I love busting balls, you
Right.
know. But it's not I'm gonna bust your balls because I love you. It's 'cause I'm gonna bust your balls because you're less than me. You know?
Yeah.
And I don't play well in that kind of arena because I'm either going to fucking end you by
Yeah.
busting your balls right in that way, or I'm going to just not be that type of person and waste that energy, you know? And I think that that's kind of why a lot of times I haven't really melted in well with my family dynamic, is because it's very like judgmental. It's kind of, you know, like there's certain people in my family where they try to hold like a contest almost,
Yeah, I
you
was
know?
gonna say, was there a certain level of competition between
Yeah,
one
like
another and
who
stuff?
can love me the most, or you know, or
Or like,
who
or my son went to college and your son is still working at
that too.
play
Yeah.
so and so, whatever.
Yeah, like that's kind of like that story with my uncle that I told you of how I almost got in a
Right.
fight with him, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like he just kept bagging on me because of the choices in life that I was making, you know?
Right.
And and for me, it's for me, I just kind of look at him and I'm like, dude, like you're not asking me if I'm happy, you know?
No.
You're not asking me, you know, what value I have in my life. You're just assuming that my job is everything to me, you know? And again, I won't bring up what he does, but like we can the conversation can go both ways in that sense, you
Yeah.
know? And it just, I don't know, there's just something about that I think that there's just that really close proximity, familiarity,
Yeah.
and something about that just kind of makes people assume, and me included, it just kind of or almost like allows people to assume that they can throw jabs or do hurtful things without like, because it's family, right?
Right. It's just like, yeah, with, I guess it would be one of those where this conversation is like the disadvantages and advantages of friends and family, and with friends, you can decide whether or not the level of competition is either good or either healthy or bad, right, in the relationship. Because if you have a friend that no matter what, it's always like he or she goes out of their way to be better than you, then that's not really a friend. Then it's just, you're just a person that you're always going against me. So you can essentially talk to that person until where, you know what, I'm done with this relationship, and this is unhealthy for me, I'm gonna walk away. But with family, when they're like that, it's almost like you have to deal with it.
Yeah,
or
or you're like shunned by other family members, right?
because
Like,
and I can speak for you too, in that sense, where my family, your family, where they hold like the value in like, you live your life, make the most money,
right.
have the best job with benefits, and then you have a kid, and then you die. Like, and then your kid have a kid, and then make sure that kid goes to college and then becomes a doctor, lawyer, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
And I think there is some kind of like legitimate concern there, right? Because I mean, for both of us, like we come from family of immigrants, you know. We come from families where they're probably first generation here.
Yeah.
And they want to push us so that we can have more. That's why they came here, right? Whatever
Yeah.
trials and tribulations that your family went through to get here, they did that because they want you to be better. They want you to have more, which is all good and great. But then there's like a certain point, like where you kind of you kind of had to say, all right, well, good job, you did great, now are you happy? Like, are you like, how is your life really?
Right.
I remember I would go to my grandma's house, and like my aunt and my cousins would be there and stuff like that, and I know how my uncles are, so I think that when I came over to the house, they kind of expected that same kind of relationship where it's like, I'm gonna really put you down because you don't really know anything, you're a kid, and for me, I would try to like get to know what they like, what things that they're trying to do, like one of my cousins, his name is Jacob, and
Shouts out to Jacob.
shout out to Jake. He's actually a fan of the show.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So who's your favorite? Don't answer it.
So he's a super nerd, right? We relate that way in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he loves Disneyland stuff. He loves like a lot of nerd stuff.
Yeah.
And in our family, that's not really it.
Like cool or anything.
Yeah, so his brothers are like super athletic,
Yeah.
like all into sports. My other cousin, his older brother, is like, he's like ripped, like he's a
Yeah.
bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And he's cool, but at the same time, they just can't relate, so he kind of gets a lot of flack and he can't really relate with people. And I remember having conversations with him about stuff, and he just like, we would talk about nerd stuff, and then you kind of just like see like his eyes open up, like you see his
Yeah.
eyes open up, and then he really engages in conversation.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I wish my family would have done something like that for me, to like kind of really
Right.
like take the time to kind of, understand what I was about.
Right.
But it takes a certain, you have to get past the familiarity of just assuming that you have an okay relationship, and you have to really say, hey, like, let me know a little bit more about your life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because, for me growing up, and I was into, like drawing stuff. I was into comics. I was into like music, listening to music, whatever. But I didn't really have, a lot of my family members don't really, cousins or whatever, they don't play music. They don't care enough about it. Most of them are in school to become a doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's no that level of relativity or whatever. And so now, like, we're able to do that now. Like if I were to meet my my cousin's son or my cousin's daughter or whatever, anything like that, and I think it's your responsibility to kind of try to kind of ask them what they actually like, instead of, how school and how, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I'm into video games. Oh, what kind of video games?
Right.
Like, oh, I can see that. Like, that's pretty dope. Like, when I was your age, I played this. It's pretty lame, but you know what I mean? So that's how you relate.
Yeah, and I think that is our responsibility.
For sure.
But it's just so hard, I think, for people to kind of identify that, and then go on about that, because like, how embarrassing would it be if you're like at a party with your family and you ask your uncle, oh, like some like normal question, like,
Yeah.
what's your favorite color? What
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck? Like, I'm your uncle. How do you not know
Yeah.
my favorite color? Stuff like that. It's a very stupid example, but it's just like
Right.
simple questions where it's just like, oh, like, what are you about? Like, let's learn about each other.
Right. I think if there's a level of where there's no shame, where you can actually have a real conversation, and like, hey, when you were my age, like, what were you into?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most of them, in just knowing from perspective, like they can't be vulnerable. That's another thing, right? They're not
Yes.
able to be vulnerable because, like, oh, when I was your age, I was working.
Right.
I was making money for the family. I had to support
Exactly,
my family.
yeah.
I was like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I get that, but what were you into, or you like soccer? Did you play? Did you play for a team? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and almost every male, at least in my family, every male cousin, uncle, whatever, it's like they have to be the strong, silent type where they can't talk about anything or whatever. They're not able to, like, just let go, and there's a couple of outliers for sure. Don't get me wrong. They're funny. They're very loud, but most of them are very like, I work. I'm a lawyer. I go to work. I come home. I bring the money.
I better be respected like one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and you never know what's going on in their life or whatever. But those people, at least to me, when they're not able to let go, for me, they don't seem happy. Like when you can't be yourself or when you can't be vulnerable in certain situations, it's like, damn, how much are you holding in?
Yeah, I think that is like a big trend with. I mean, I'm not like I'm not one of those people that like calls out like sexism or racism and all that stuff. I just feel like things are what they are, right? But
Yeah.
I think there is like a little bit of something that says like dudes do have a kind of a problem with vulnerability, kind of a problem with kind of opening up a little bit, and I mean I don't really understand that so much. I can understand. I don't know. It's so hard because I have a hard time sometimes opening up, but I will do it. Especially if somebody wants to get on that kind of conversation with me, I have no problems with that. But I feel also that I kind of relate, like for example, to my papa. I relate to him because now as an adult. Understanding like the difficulties and stuff that you face,
Right.
like I understand how it would be hard or embarrassing or something like that for him to say like I'm proud of you.
Yeah, you're empathetic to what he went through, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And I can see that. I can see how that could be weird, but
sure.
it's just so necessary. It's so necessary.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that you can't be a man or you can't like provide for your family and be strong. I'm just saying there should be an option, and there should be a door that's open to like, hey, I had a shitty day today and I feel like crap, and I want to talk about it or whatever. Or
Yeah.
like my dad said this to me. Can we talk about it?
Do you like talking about it though? Like if you do have a shitty day, like at work, do you like talking about it?
I think I talk about it too much.
Really? See, for me, it's like the opposite.
Yeah.
I think it's just because, like at work, a lot of times stuff is traumatic,
Well, I mean, yeah.
So it's like for me, I don't like. My wife asks me all the time. She's just like, "Well, how was work?" And I'm just like, "I don't give a fuck,"
Well, have you tried?
Have I tried what?
Just kind of maybe that one day, like it was especially awful, and just kind of like I'm just gonna talk about it. Have you even?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
like
okay.
sometimes, like when it's really, really, really bad. Like I remember I had like a kid die on me at work.
Yeah.
That was really bad, and of course I came home. I had to talk about that.
Yeah.
Just kind of like release. Like I ended up actually crying at work, and like it got to me.
Yeah.
Like one of the only cases that's ever gotten to me. So for something like that, yes, but like for something like last night, for example, right? Things were just popping off. Like the ER was going crazy, and then we had stuff going on in the ICUs, and then some of the people I work with, like they were getting upset at me, because there was like miscommunication, and they thought that I was kind of like ignoring or not communicating with them.
Yeah.
I just couldn't because I was busy, like actively like trying to do stuff for patients. And after a little clarification, like one of the guys, he came down, he was really heated. And I was like, all right, well, let me explain to what just happened, Like, I called you and you didn't answer, so I figured, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. He's like, what do you mean you called me? You didn't call me. It would have been nice to know this stuff. And I was like, I called you. You didn't answer. I figured that you were busy, so I give you a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. Change it to 15.
To 15
minutes. Yes.
So he looked at his phone. He's like, oh, you did call me. And I was like, all right, cool. Can I have a hug now? And after that, he kind of just started laughing. And then I explained to him, what was going on and what I had already known when he was going to tell me. And we had already taken care of it and stuff like that. And he's like, oh. And I was like, dude, I know that I know you don't trust me yet, but I won't ever not communicate with you willfully. Like I'm just not going to decide not to communicate. Mm-hmm. And after that, like he kind of warmed up, But a lot of things were going crazy yesterday, but and I had to stay over because we were short-staffed, So stuff like that I wouldn't always necessarily talk about because like Danya used to pick me up from work a lot.
Yeah.
And I would have the ER a lot. I would ask for the ER in California, and people didn't like it, so I would trade them. And she would pick me up, and she'd be like, "How's work?" And for me, I'm just like, I don't care. I don't need to talk about it. It's gone. It's done and over with. Let's just move on about our day. It's something that I have to leave there, because not because it was always like really bad and traumatic. It's just like sometimes like you just hustle, you
Yeah.
handle that shit, and then you just move on. You leave it
Yeah,
alone.
and I agree. I don't think you have to talk about every single thing. I think certain moments in your life that might be a factor in the future, then I
Right.
think you should be able to talk about that. But I think from knowing you, I think you're very good at recognizing that level of what you need to talk to and what you don't. Because
Yeah.
certain things are not important enough to talk about. Like, like, oh, my coworker pissed me off today. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like,
Right.
there's nothing really to talk about. Like,
Unless it's gossip.
unless it's real gossip.
'Cause I love
because we're
gossip.
gossip queens.
We love the gossip. Oh my
But
god.
other than that, there is a level of what the importance
Right.
of that. I'm just saying. I think when I was working for the Navy as a civilian or whatever, it a lot of people that I know, a lot of men that I know, they would work or they would want to work overtime or want to go to like TDY is like they go like not overseas but like they go like to San Diego to work or Japan to work for like months and months, and sometimes they leave their family behind, and they would much prefer having just being at work, or and then most of them cheat too, you know what I
They
mean?
have their other families.
They build relationships at work, and you know they have to make money, and then when they make all that money they just buy toys instead of investing or whatever. That is their business, right?
Right.
But I see it very clearly, and like for me it's like, yeah, I'll do overtime, but like I also would like to come home and spend time with my family, spend time with friends, and
I think that a lot of people kind of just get caught up with surviving.
Right.
It's almost like it's a great privilege. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. I busted my ass to be where I am today. And I sacrificed a lot. But it's still a privilege to be able to speak about things that I want as opposed to things that I need to have. And I don't mean like, oh, I need to have this, this new phone. I mean like I need to get money for my mortgage or like my rent,
right.
And I think that it's a great privilege for us to be able to have conversations like that. But I think more and more now, especially, I think as a society, I don't want to say that there's not poverty. I don't want to say that there's not people that are struggling. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But as a society, I think that the level of the quality of life is starting to increase for a good amount of people, right? And now people are starting to look, and I think that's kind of like where people kind of start to miss things is now instead of struggling to make payments or struggling to try to survive like our parents or grandparents did, now it's like, well, okay, like we're a lot of us are doing okay. I'm not saying that everybody has a bunch of money, but I'm saying a lot of us are doing okay, where we don't necessarily have to worry about where our next meal is going to come from, right? Well, what now?
Yeah.
Like what comes after that? That's all our parents have known, so that's all they've taught us is how to survive. All of our parents have known is how to save money or how to scrounge, or how to just be hard workers. Well,
Yeah.
what's after that? What happens if you've never been taught how to seek fulfillment, seek actual happiness, or even try to figure out inside yourself what happiness is, And I think that's kind of like we're a wall where a lot of people our age-ish are kind of hitting,
For sure. I mean, I definitely struggle with it because it's like, I know I can get a job and work super hard and then get money. I know that is the easy part.
Right.
It's just figuring out what fulfills me and what brings me joy and happiness and what purpose in life is.
Yeah.
That's the question,
And
at least for me, and
Yeah, and I mean, we have to acknowledge that that's somewhere that it's a station in life that's very fortunate,
Oh yeah, for sure.
But but at the same time, it's where we are, and we kind of have to like work towards being better at it.
Yeah.
It's just it's kind of tough sometimes because you got, at least I do, I get caught up in that. I get caught up and I still need to survive. You know, there's just something about it where it's just that drive, you know, that fear that, like, I still think that somebody's going to come to my house and say, oh, this isn't your house, dude.
Right.
You know, like, yeah, you have to give it back or whatever.
So at what point are you able to, maybe meditate on that and then like find your level of letting go, where you
Right.
can let go and just like, wow, yeah, I made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like, I don't know. You know, when Eddie first, like, you know, they surprised me, but when, after like the surprise and stuff was, you know, we hugged it out and stuff, when I was like, oh, let me show you my house, you know, like, it kind of hit me again, you know, and he's like, yeah, show me your house, dude. And I'm just like, holy fuck, this is my house. And he's like, I know, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it just kind of hit me again. And it's just so crazy. I don't know. It's so crazy, you know, I don't know how to kind of just accept and not move on, but, you know, accept and be okay with it, and then understand that, like, this is where I am, and like, be proud of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when are you allowed to be proud of yourself?
Acknowledge your wins,
Exactly.
I have a hard time of that too. Every now and again, my wife have to kind of like check me, like, hey, you did that, or like, hey, you accomplished that, and 99.9% of the time, I'm like, like,
Yeah.
whatever, like, there's more I need to do, or
Right.
whatever. So I think having those people in your life that are able to check you and able to tell you, like, dude, you did this,
Yeah.
you in yours did this, and you deserve it, and more to come, like
Yeah.
to be able to just breathe and just like really, really look at the accomplishments that you've done and you've made.
But
Likewise to me, it's just
how do you become okay with just being proud of yourself? That is a hard one for me. That's something that to this day I still struggle with, you know, like, to just sit there and enjoy your accomplishments. You know, I think we kind of relate in this, where you and I have like goals, obviously, but, you know, we have like this high goal that we're just like fucking striving towards, right? And I think that all the wins in between, we kind of just pass up because we don't even want to acknowledge it, you know?
yeah.
But why? Why don't we? Why? I don't even understand that.
Because it's the fear of like maybe slowing down. Maybe it's the fear of like if we enjoy too much of what's going on, then we're gonna mess up on the next opportunity or the next door that's gonna be open or the next pathway that we missed because we were slowing down and enjoying the sights instead of like going to the next goal or whatever. And I think we just have to balance like what we need to see and also get to where we need to go.
See, I think for me, I mean, I definitely am afraid to kind of miss out on what I really want to accomplish, you know. But
Yeah.
I think for me, sometimes like I just don't believe it, you know. I just can't believe it. Like, sometimes my wife will be like, "Dude, look at what you fucking did. Like, look what you accomplished," and I'm just like, "Yeah, you know, yeah, whatever," you know, like that's how it should. I always say that's the way it should be, you know. And I don't know. It's just hard for me to kind of really like sit there and just accept, oh man, you did. Congratulations. You know?
I mean, but you're right though. I mean, you've told me before too, where it's like, and it goes with that figuring out the fulfillment and joy part. You also need to acknowledge what you've done,
Right.
Because if you are trying to find that joy, or trying to find that fulfillment and happiness, whatever, but you don't really look at what you've done, then it's almost like it's harder to find that joy and fulfillment because like a lot of it you want to do this, like, yeah, you did that.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do that. Like, no, you did that. It's
Yeah.
just you just on to the next,
You know, it kind of reminds me, and we can talk more about it another time maybe, but It kind of reminds me of like Kanye West and Joe Rogan. Did you see that?
The podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to
So,
it.
oh man, I felt so bad for him. I felt so bad for him because I mean, at least in my perspective, I don't know the fucking guy. You know, I don't know who he is, but in my perspective, I feel like I just sense that he's doing all these things, right? Like he was like just so like he just kept saying all these things that he was going to do, like the church and the monastery and the school and all this stuff, right? And great, like that seems like the positive things that he's going to do, but it just seems like he's just grasping for things to kind of settle his soul, you know? And
Yeah.
it seems like he's just not able to and not able to find it. And I think that is a personification of so many people today, you know, that the struggles that so many people like struggle with today is that they cannot find fulfillment no matter what they do because they are just too distracted by something else.
Yeah, and the dude's pretty much done it all.
Yeah.
Like, he made music, made beats, wanted to rap, told that he wasn't a good rapper, became the biggest rapper ever. He was into fashion.
Yep.
And told he couldn't own or couldn't do his own fashion thing, did his own fashion thing,
And yet his
he's
soul
accomplished
still can't find peace.
so much and musical genius, but then it's like, what's the next thing? Okay, I want to be leader of the free world. Dude, no, relax. Just make music and do the other stuff and help your community. I'm sure he does. Again, I don't know him that well, and again, I'm speaking for somebody that but just my opinion. But like the dude has done so much, and like that people like me or people like that, even 10% of what he's done, like I want that, or
Yeah.
like, to be able to achieve that. And he's done it in like how many years, and he's still killing it, and just not understanding what he's done. And you even listen to it. And also Joe Rogan, I think, did a smart thing where in my opinion, I feel like he knows he wants to, this is a huge deal, right? He knows, he understands that. He also understood that he can't like poke and prod too much because
Yeah.
he wants him to come back.
He kind of just
So
let
he's
him go.
almost indulging him a little bit, let him do his thing, let him talk and kind of like stroke his ego a little bit. But, bottom line, he probably thinks he's fucking nuts. Like, just be.
See, the thing is like that for me, like I don't think he's nuts, man. I think he's just hurting really bad. Like I think that he just is constantly being taken from, and that's why he can't find any fulfillment in the things that he does, you know?
You think he's like, if I become leader of the free world, if I change people's lives in a bigger perspective, then people will love me more.
I don't know if he's doing it for love. I don't know if he's doing it because he just wants somebody to be able to, or people to be able to be happy around him. I have no idea what his motivation is, but it just seems like he's just hurting. Like, even though he's doing so much, and people think that he's crazy, but I mean, what if all your life is every interaction with every person 100% that they just want something from you. So maybe they're being nice to you, but that all they want is something. All that you are valuable for is for you to give them something. It doesn't matter if it's money, beats, a soundbite on their track,
Right.
or a leg up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. All they want from you, all anybody wants from you, is something. And imagine living that way.
Yeah, but
how can you find anything?
Also, he's married to a family that has been successful through doing all that.
Ultimate materialism.
You know what I mean? And just being loud and being about fashion, changing your look, looking this way, being original.
Right.
And so, but they grew up rich and, they don't know anything else. So for them to understand what people like us, what we've gone through, it's not their responsibility to understand, because they just don't know. They don't live like that. Maybe Kanye West would, because he grew up poor and he had to but I think his parents are educators and stuff like that. Like he went to college. Like he's always been a talented dude, gifted even,
But it doesn't matter where you came from at that point. It's just like, how can you go back? You can't, because he'll always be Kanye. People
Yeah.
will always want something from him, and people are probably not going to do very much to,
Yeah.
even if they do sit him down and say, hey, dude, like, I just want to talk to you. Well, why do you want to talk to him? You know, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, there's
What are you
always
trying to get
somebody's
out of
always
them?
getting something out of
And then
it.
you have your bodyguard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean I completely understand.
But I
Like,
think that we can all relate to that because you're just seeing it, like, right? We all have that crazy inside. We all have that crazy voice inside that says, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And some people do it, right? The doers, and some thinkers just stay stuck being thinkers. And but we still do other things. Like, everybody has their crazy, right? Everybody has the things that they're doing for. Do you really know what reason for? You don't really know. Like, is it going to work every day for what? Well, I don't know, just because I have to go to work. Or is it, going to a family gathering every Wednesday, even though they always ends up in a fight, and it's always like they're always hurting your feelings. Why are you doing that? Well, because I have to, right?
Right.
Because it's family. It's People always have these, like, everybody has this crazy thing that they're doing that they're not really having a goal for to kind of really satisfy and fulfill their soul, right? It's just that with Kanye, you're seeing everything because he's verbalizing everything. For us, it's all or for a lot of us, it's internal. Some people, will show certain things, but it's when I saw that, man, I was just like, holy shit! It just kind of hurts me, And I really don't give a shit about celebrities. Like, I don't care who it is. I really don't give a shit,
yeah, but you're just empathetic to, you're seeing it firsthand. Like, oh, this guy is troubled or whatever.
Suffering.
Like,
Yeah.
he's suffering. And I think it's about also, when we're empathetic to that, it's also recognizing our suffering too, and what we're doing to ourselves, that the only control that we have is what we can do to get better, so we're better suited to living our lives fully.
Right.
And also, loving and caring for the people around us, so level friends and family, they're very close in proximity with each other. I think it's a matter of recognizing and understanding what you're able to, the percentage of what yourself you're able to let go of, so that not only that you're being 100% you or whatever, but the circle that you have around you is also, it's inevitably part of you too. So they always say, like, the people that you have around you speaks volumes about who you are too.
Right.
So we're also needed to be able to understand that, as well. And I think it's a good talk.
Yeah. Right off the cuff too,
Right.
because we didn't even know.
Yeah, a little Kanye, a little drizzle in there. Kanye drizzle.
Dude, I've been thinking about that for a long time. Like, I heard it, and it just, I don't know, it's been sitting heavy on me.
Yeah, it's only been a week. And, and like I said, like we touched base on that, where we're so busy in our own lives, we're figuring out what we need to do. Sometimes we need to take a second and just kind of like assess what we're doing, and also like check in with other people and check in, like, hey, haven't heard from you, how you been, and whatever. And there shouldn't be a level of ego there. Even if that other person, like, well, that person didn't hit me up, so why should I call him, or why should I hit him up?
Yeah.
So we need to understand that it's okay to do that. It's okay to be vulnerable at times, and to just check in, because you never know. Maybe that person is going through a hard time, and like, hey man, thanks for calling me, or thanks for hitting me up, because this week was hard for me, and that was much needed. So I guess the last words would be to, assess yourself and check in with, people you love around you, even if you've just seen them, just kind of like, hey, how's it going? And also, we wanted to talk about a new segment.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you want to bring it up now?
Let's bring it up now.
Okay.
I mean, we have a little bit of time left.
So I have a little bit of time. There's a little bit of history behind it. So I always have conversations with people, right? And then especially with my wife. My wife knows this regularly. I have always said, do you want me to lie, or do you want me to be honest with you? Now, obviously, I'm not saying outright lie, but what that question implies is, do you want me to softball answer this, or do you want me to hardball give you the truth, And it's something that I learned from my mom, because my mom, she didn't ask you, she just fucking told you, right? She
Yeah.
just like told you how stupid you are and why you're being so stupid.
Right.
So I'll always ask that, and then depending on the I'll
Context
say, I'll
or-
communicate differently depending on what answer they give me. So I was thinking that in this segment, we can have some of our friends, family, viewers ask us a question, and at the end, you can tell us whether you want us to lie or to be honest, or to get both perspectives.
Yeah. So hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. You can DM us, obviously. I don't want to put it out in public. You can DM us, and then we'll assess the question. Or you can email us to at the doer and the thinker at gmail.com. So you can email us if you'd like, and we'll check in. And hopefully it'll be a thing that we can kind of go through towards the end, or even in the beginning, depending on how interesting.
Yeah, we'll segment it out or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
We'll figure it out.
I think it'll be fun, So that, I think that would be cool. So thank you for listening to the Doer and the Thinker podcast. You can find us at the Doer and the Thinker podcast on Instagram, and then everywhere else, Facebook. The links are there. This is going to be episode 8 for sure, because we technically did a 2-parter. If you haven't listened to that, you should. We did a Halloween episode. I mean, if anything, it's just like 9 or 10, right? But anyway,
It's technically 8.
technically 8, yes. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah, go ahead and DM us, email us. Peace.
Have a good night, y'alls.
Later. Okay.